Okay, let's see if we can get this last one done in one more video. I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's go with 17 and 18. And just to get some variety in there, I actually would like to change 17 to a less than symbol so we can get some practicing with the alligator issue. So I'm still going to have a shape of a U because it's a squared. I will be getting technically, I guess, kind of like two answers, but with an inequality, it actually is more. And then the same on 18, all the same information. All right, so right now I'm going to act like, what's the word? That it's an equal sign. So I'm going to look for a GCF first. So on 17, I don't see a GCF. So I'm going to try to factor. And maybe as you're making this, you're going to realize that there are no factors of 1 that can make -4. So we will have to move to the quadratic formula. So that's going to be A is 1, B is -4, and C is 1. All right, I'm going to erase my X. All right, so the quadratic formula is going to go X equals the opposite of B plus or minus. Now I'm about to take B and square it, -4 times A times C. And then all of that's divided by 2 times 1. So now what's going to happen is if I just work within the check mark and I type in, starting with the parentheses, all of this, I'm going to get a 12. All right, again, for the capstone, and what I would expect you to do is with the 12, find the factors that are perfect, which, and I just realized I put a square root of 2 there. That should just be a 2. And then my 12, the square root of 4 can become a 2. This can become, that stays a 3, square root of 3. And then I can do a triangle problem here and divide all of those by 2. So I'll have 2 plus or minus 1 square root of 3. And I can have a 1 in the denominator if I want, but I am not going to. So because this is an alligator problem, all right, and I'm going to move up a little bit higher here, I have a regular U that is meeting a flat line of 0. And I want to know what these numbers are of where they're meeting. So what I'm going to do is turn on my calculator and just type these in. All right, so let's move this over a little bit, maybe. Well, okay, well, I cannot get it to move. Give me one moment. All right, so I'm just going to do 2 plus 1. You don't really need the 1. And then square root, so that's second x squared, 3. And there's one answer. And then if I just hit second enter, it actually just recalls what I typed in. And I can go to my plus and turn it into a minus and get my other answer. So as it turns out, it's meeting, whoops, I didn't mean for that to disappear, at about 0.3 and about 3.7. So 0.3 and 3.7. So 0.3 and 3.7. Now, since my symbol is a less than, right here, which is what we changed to, I'm going to want below the U. So when I write my answer, it goes anywhere from 0.3 to 3.7, and it'll be parentheses because my inequality is not underlined. All right, let's go to number 18. So I'm going to look for factors. Well, sorry, let me first look for a GCF, which I don't see one. So I'm going to go for my X. I need factors of -10 that make -9, and that can give me a 10 and a 1, with the 10 being negative. And now when I make my parentheses, X and X will not work. These are not enough to make 2x squared. So I'll have to put a 2 with one of them. And now I'm going to do this loop. All right, so 2x can make my -10x, so that means my x will have to make my 1x. And following this loop, 2x times what can make -10x, that's a -5. And x times what can make 1x, that's a +1. Set these equal to 0. So I'd subtract my 1. I would divide by my 2 and get -1/2. And if I take the other one, I'm going to add my 5 and get 5. And now I need to see a visual of my answer. So I'm going to erase my x. And I have a regular U that's meaning my flat line of 0. It's meeting at -1/2 and 5. And because the symbol is greater than or equal to, I want the part that's above the line. Greater is above the line. So that means I would have an arrow with a negative infinity, an arrow with an infinity, and then my answer goes from -infinity to -1/2, and then from 5 to infinity. And because the inequality is underlined, I will put brackets around those two. All right, getting there. How many do we have? Oh my God. Okay, we're probably gonna have to do 2 videos. What were you thinking? All right, so we're gonna graph the following. So this kind of puts everything at the top together. So what I like to do first is remember that there's 2x minus 5s, 2x minus 1s, and 1x plus 3. So let's talk about what's great about this. What's great about this is I can see all of my solutions. I don't know why there's 2 b's there, but I can see that I'm going to have 5 as a solution twice, which means I'll have a bounce. I'll have 1 as a solution twice, which means I'll have another bounce. And then I'll have -3 as a solution once, which will mean it will cross. So let's go ahead and get these on here. Here's 5 with the bounce. Here's 1 with the bounce. And here's -3 with a cross. So what I don't like about this is that I cannot see the shape and I can't see the y-intercept. So if you guys look, we have altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 neighbors. 2 is just a single person. And I need to take the first neighbor from each situation, or in this case, with the 2, the only person who lives there, and multiply those out. So if I multiply those, I have a 2, and then I have 5 x's. So I'm going to have a line that goes up. For my y-intercept, I'm going to go and make all of these x's become 0, because that's what happens in a y-intercept. X is always 0. So again, writing this all out. And then if I just took all of those parentheses and simplified them, I'd have a 2 with a -5, another -5, a -1, another -1, and a +3. So I would take my calculator, which I'm just going to use one on the side. You won't be able to see this one. I'm going to take 2 times -5 times -5 times -1 times -1 times 3. And when I'm done, my y-intercept is +150. So my y-intercept, I'm going to actually write it here, is 0, 150. So it'll go way up here. And then here goes my left arrow. Here goes my right arrow. I'm going to start bottom left, get here, cross through, go to 150, come here, bounce through, not bounce through, bounce off. Then I'm going to turn. I'm going to bounce off again, and then my arrows are aligning. All right, let's go to the next one. So on the next problem, I'm going to try to factor it because it's in standard form. So first I always look for my GCF, which I don't see one here. And then because I see 4 terms, I'm going to try to break them up. And in my first set, I can take an x squared out and be left with an x minus 2, which in the second set, I need another x minus 2. And then if I take this 6 and divide it by this -2, that's a -3, and I would try to put it here. But that's not going to work because when -3 distributes to x, I need -3x, and I have a -5x. So factoring is not going to work. So again, I'm going to be using my calculator on the side. And I'm going to be typing in x cubed minus 2x squared plus 5x, I'm sorry, minus 5x, almost messed that up, plus 6, and then I'm going to my table, and I'm seeing a couple numbers, but the one that pops up right in front of me is a 3. So I'm just going to use the space down here, 3. Remember, that's going to be one of my solutions, and I'm going to put my numbers here, knowing that I'm going to get 0. So walking through this, all right, I got the 0. This is the remainder. Don't need it anymore. This is my constant, x squared. So now I'm going to take this, and I can factor this now. All right, so what are factors of -2 that make 1, well, that's 2 and 1, with the 1 being negative. So my parentheses are going to be, starting with x's, is this x and this x enough to make this? It is. We like this type of factoring. And now x with a positive 2 can make this 2x, and x with a negative 1 can make this. And now if I set these equal to 0, I get an additional 1 and an additional negative 2 as my answer. And I should have 3 answers, which I do have all 3 now. My shape is a line going up, and my y-intercept is if I just make all of these x's here become 0, because that's what happens on a y-intercept, x is 0. All right, this turns to 0, 0, 0. So if you look at this, you get a positive 6. So my y-intercept is 6, which I'll put here. Here goes my negative 2. Here goes my 1 and 3. I did not say this, but these are all crossings, so I'll put little c's. Arrow up on the right, arrow down on the left, and let's see if we can make this work. Here we go. All right, it's going to start here. Cross through, go to 6, cross through 1, turn, go to 3. Well, that's supposed to go to through 3, but there we go. All right, let's go for our last one. So on 21, there is a GCF, and so I want you guys to realize that I really need for you to take out this negative x to make this easier. So before I do that, let me quickly get the shape. This will be an upside down U, okay? And now I'm going to use the space. I'm going to factor out a negative x. Here it is down here. I'll get some more parentheses in a moment. But when I take out the negative x, so let's put this right here. My negative x to the 4th becomes a positive x, and now it's to the 3rd. My 4x cubed becomes subtracting 4, and now it's x squared. My 7x becomes a minus 7, and the x squared becomes an x. And my subtracting 28 becomes a positive 28, and it's lost its x. All right, so here we go. Grouping them. My first set, I get an x squared. I'm left with x minus 4, which will match this. And if I use my little trick, 28 divided by negative 4 is a negative 7. And I just double check, does it work? Yep, there's negative 7x. There's a positive 28. So I can finish. And now one of my brackets, the things on the outside, x squared minus 7. And then my matching brackets here, or parentheses, gives me the other set. So set this equal to 0. My answer is 0. Set x squared minus 7 equal to 0. I'd add the 7 first, and then I would square root. I get the square root of 7, which, just real quick, since I'm graphing, I'll put these as decimals. The square root of 7 is about 2.6, so a positive and a negative 2.6. And then my last one, x minus 4 equal to 0, I get a 4. So if I go for my solutions, I have a 0, that's a bounce. I have a positive 2.6, that's a bounce, or sorry, none of those are bounces. Let me fix that. Crosses. I have a negative 2.6, which is another cross, and I have a single 4, which is another cross. Okay, last thing is the y-intercept. So if I go to my original problem and I put 0 in for all of those x's, maybe you realize that all of these will turn into 0, so your y-intercept is just 0, 0. Some people have thought about the idea that if they just go to the very end, that's your y-intercept, but the y-intercept is just a single number if you're trying to use this trick. So if I cover everything up, there's nothing left because all those things turn into 0. So careful, don't think that it's negative 28 as the y-intercept. So let's get our points. We got 0, cross, 2.6, cross, 4, cross, and negative 2.6, cross. My y-intercept I actually already have, but it's still crossing. and upside down U, so down on the left, down on the right, and now we're going to graph it. So I'm going to cross, turn, cross, turn, cross, turn, cross. And again, you can turn wherever you want. All right, I think I'm going to stop and make one final video.